Welcome to the Academic Framework, Module 6. Our topic for today is getting to know your students. In particular, we will be looking at what kinds of things we should pay attention to when getting to know our English language learners. But where does this fit in our ELL framework for academic literacy? Let's take a look at our house graphic and find out. The foundational piece, of course, is getting to know your students. And that includes things like home language, prior schooling and experiences, and interests. Our next building block is background knowledge and vocabulary. And the third foundational piece is oral language. Next come our pillars: register, grammar, and genre. And finally, assessment, though assessment occurs throughout the framework. In today's session, we will be looking at the bottom two of getting to know your students and background knowledge. We talk a lot in educational settings about getting to know your student, but what exactly does this mean? Well, we can get to know our student on 3 levels. We can get to know them as a human being, as a multilingual individual, and as a learner, but not before we've looked at our welcoming protocols. We can ask ourselves the question, is your school a welcoming place for newcomers? Do all people who come into your school feel seen and heard? There are many things that we can implement in order to help our students feel welcome. For instance, a buddy system, or posters that reflect different types of people, posters and books in multiple languages, or even small gifts for our incoming students. Totem stones are a beautiful way to welcome students into your new community. In addition to having dual language books in your schools, another idea might be to have books that are culturally responsive, books where our students can see themselves. And we start by honoring our student's name. In addition to honoring our students' names, we can also honor their home language. When we allow students to access their first and second languages in order to build on that, to build their next languages, that's called translanguaging. And not only is it respectful to our students, it also helps with the learning process. What wonderful sentiments from Donna Cardoza. Take a moment to read the slide and absorb what it's saying. And in the spirit of getting to know our students, the first way in which we'd like to get to know our students is as human beings. We can start to get to know the students in front of us as human beings by thinking about some of their interests and hobbies. One way to do that might be to use a template like the ones shown on the slide. The next way in which we can get to know our students is as multilingual individuals. Here are some important considerations to think about when getting to know our students as multilingual learners. What is their home language or their home languages? What about prior schooling? This is particularly important for our refugee students. Has there been interrupted schooling? Have they been to school in many different countries, using many different languages? What are their literacy levels in their home language? Can they read and write? And what is their cultural background? Here is an example of a Getting to Know You bingo board, where we can learn a little bit more about our students' prior schooling. This activity, taken from Adrian Gear's Reading Power, looks at cultural celebrations of our students. Finally, we can get to know our student as a learner. Some of the things we might consider are learning profiles, students' strengths and stretches, their social emotional needs, and their background knowledge. Here's an example of a learning profile that you might use with your students. This looks at their strengths and stretches as a learner. Our students come to us with a certain set of rules or behaviors that are appropriate in their culture, which may or may not be appropriate in ours. And so part of finding out our students' SEL needs has to do with their communication systems, their pragmatics, social rules of communication. This is really important so that our students do not get misunderstood. Our English language learners need explicit vocabulary instruction around emotions words. We need to help them move beyond, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm sad. I'm happy. Because as we know, the English language has many more shades of emotions. Here is an example of how you might play with some of the shades of words. We can play with emotion words by putting them in terms of least intensity to most intensity, a great activity for all our students. Students can play with the nuances of these words by plotting them on a mood meter or on this Tier 3 Frayer graphic organizer. And don't forget language frames to express emotions. Here's one from Dorina Sackman that can be very helpful at getting kids to reframe negative and to honor the positive. Take a moment to read the slide. In the previous example around social and emotional learning, we could see that both background knowledge and vocabulary are essential for learning new skills in content. Without the context of our manners or pragmatics, and without the vocabulary to describe emotions, our students cannot move forward in this area. And so let's look a little bit further at the importance of building background knowledge. Here is an example of a cloze activity. Please pause the video for a moment and fill in the blanks with words that you think would be appropriate in the spaces. You may have filled in the blanks like this. The questions that parents face as they raise children from infants to adult life are not easy to answer. Both fathers and mothers can become concerned when health problems, etc., etc. Because I gave you no context and did not build your background knowledge, there was no way that you would have known that the previous activity was actually about raising chickens. Take a look at the paragraph now. Knowing that it's about chickens, see how you might have answered it differently. We can build background knowledge and vocabulary at the same time. Let's assume we were doing a unit on Little Bear's Vision Quest, the First Nations story. We might need to build the background knowledge and vocabulary of our students who may have little to no experience with bears. We can do this by using the picture word induction model and sentence stems. We ask our students the question, what do you notice? And then we give them the sentence stem so that they can answer. The bear can climb trees. The bear can eat berries. And the bear can catch fish in the river. Once we've built some of this background knowledge and vocabulary, the story will make a lot more sense to our students. Now you try. What are some strategies that you already have in place for welcoming and getting to know your students? Are there some at the classroom level? Are there some at the school level? What activities or strategies can I add to my toolbox? Consider welcoming new students. Consider getting to know your students as humans, as multilingual people, and as learners. Want to learn more? Take a peek at our YouTube channel, English Language Learners. Hooray! And subscribe so that you can find out every time we add a new video. Have fun getting to know your students.